ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ولي الصالحين وإله الأولين والآخرين وجامع الناس كافة يوم الدين. ونشهد أن محمدًا عبد الله ورسوله الأمين، أرسله الله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون، صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليمًا كثيرا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام، إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أيها الإخوة الأفاضل والأخوات الفضيات، من أشد الأزمات التي يمر منها الإنسان في العصر الحديث، سواء داخل الأسرة أو خارجها في المجتمع، إنما هي أزمة أخلاق وقيم ومعاملات. غالبية المشاكل الأسرية لو نظرنا إليها بتفحص وعناية نجد أن غالبيتها تعود إلى سوء المعاملة والأخلاق، ولأن كل طرف من أطراف النزاع داخل الأسرة أو في المجتمع كل يريد من الآخرين أن يتغير، ولا يريد هو ولا تريد هي أن تغير من أمرها أو يغير من نفسه، فكل طرف يلوم الطرف الآخر، وهنا تكمن الأزمة. ومن هنا لا يمكن لأي أزمة أو مشكلة أن تنحل إلا إذا راعى الإنسان أن يبدأ بالتغيير في نفسه هو. ولذلك يقولون: لا تبحث عن الشريك المناسب، كن أنت الشريك المناسب. لأجل هذا نجد أن القرآن الكريم اعتنى عناية خاصة بمسألة الأخلاق ومسألة الآداب، حتى أن سورة بأكملها تسمى سورة الحجرات يسميها بعض العلماء بسورة الأخلاق، لأن هذه السورة اهتمت من أولها إلى آخرها بترشيد الخلق البشري والمعاملة، كيف يعامل الإنسان ربه ونبيه ودينه، وكيف يتعامل أبناء الأسرة وأبناء المجتمع مع بعض. My dear brothers and sisters, the true crisis we have nowadays in this day and age, whether within the family or in society in general, it's ethical. It's about ethics and behavior. The mass majority of issues we have as family members, also as members of the society, more or less, most of it is about ethics and discipline and behavior. And we're not any exception. Even in the Muslim world, where we think sometimes that we have stronger bonds, etc. If I mention, for instance, divorce, and I don't want to mention the names of the countries because it's not about the countries, it's about the phenomenon. It's everywhere. Every country, more or less, the same thing. But I'm going to just share some figures with you, regardless of the name of the country. In one of the countries, every 10 minutes, a divorce takes place. A divorce takes place every 10 minutes. And if I were to mention, the country will be surprised. Which means every single day, 144 divorces take place. In another country, and I'm referring to statistics, numbers, rates, not from the back of my mind. These are studies, official studies. There's 60% of divorce take place within marriages. So which means when you get married, 60% chance you're going to end in divorce. Very scary. In some other statistics, every 2 divorces, 1 and every 2 marriages, 1 end in divorce. 50%. Now, the thing is, when you go and study this matter in the UK, in the United Kingdom, the rate of divorce dropped down. Now, in the latest study, the divorce rate has fallen and dropped down. You might think this is a good thing. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. Because the reason why divorce has fallen and dropped down is because there are less marriages. People don't get married as much as before. So because the number of marriages dropped down, obviously divorce dropped down. Also, there's another reason I don't want to go into now because that's not the topic. So for us as Muslims, refraining from marriage is a disaster. Because we can't have relationships with opposite sex outside marriage. It's haram, zina is haram, adultery is haram, fornication is haram. So for us to have less marriages, that's a disaster. Which means there's more haram, more zina, more adultery, more fornication. So the solution is not to refrain from getting married. The solution is to learn how to keep your marriage healthy and strong. So going back to what I was talking about in Arabic earlier, our major problem within families and society is ethical. It's about al-akhlaq and al-adab. It's about discipline. It's about discipline. That's why when you open Al-Quran Al-Kareem and you start reading from the beginning to the end, you're going to find Allah Jalla Jalaluhu taking so much care about al-akhlaq and ethics. Surah Al-Hujurat is also called Surah Al-Akhlaq, the Surah of Ethics. Some scholars call Surah Al-Hujurat Surah Al-Akhlaq, the chapter of ethics and discipline. And it's true when you look at Surah Al-Hujurat from the very beginning, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تُقَدِّمُوا بَيْنَ يَدَيْ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ, all the way going through these verses of this surah, you can see Allah Azza wa Jalla is establishing ethics and al-akhlaq, morals, principles, behavior, discipline. Because truly that is what is going wrong within our families and society. We have a crisis, our crisis is ethical, it's said, and behavior. Now in Surah Al-Hujurat, at least there are 16 commandments in Surah Al-Hujurat. 16 commandments. Very important. When you look at Surah Al-Hujurat, Ikhwani, and I recommend that you go and study Surah Al-Hujurat. Wallahi, Ikhwani, it will fix a lot of our behavior. As spouses, as children, as family members in general, and as society members as well. Surah Al-Hujurat. And I want to focus today only about some of these commandments that Allah Azza wa Jalla has established in Surah Al-Hujurat, the Surah of Ethics. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن إن بعض الظن إثم. Now, and I know this very well, Ikhwani, because I'm a family therapist, most of family conflicts and issues and problems comes from this matter of adhan, suspicion. Suspicion. Very powerful tool of the shaitan to destroy families and societies. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ijtanibu. Avoid, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Ya ayyuhal, all who you believe, stay away from adhan. Ijtanibu kathiran, a lot of suspicion. Stay away from a lot of suspicion. And then he said, Inna ba'd al-dhann. He said, stay away from a lot of suspicion. And then he said, ba'd. Ijtanibu kathiran, ba'd. When he said to avoid, he said avoid a lot of suspicion. Why? Because some. He didn't say a lot, he said some. Inna ba'd al-dhanni ithm. وَمَنْ حَامَ حَوْلَ الْهِمَا أَوْشَكَ أَنْ يَقَعَ فِيهِ. If you want to be in the safe side, stay in the middle. Don't go too close to the border. So because there are a lot of suspicions that are very bad for us, not every suspicion, because we need, suspicion is a tool that we have as humans. If we know how to utilize suspicion, we can benefit from it. Because sometimes you have to have the suspicion. Allah created this tool within us to protect ourselves. So it is not a bad thing, but the bad thing about it is when you use it in the wrong way. The Prophet said, كَفَى بِالْمَرْءِ كَذِبًا أَنْ يُحَدِّثَ بِكُلِّ مَا سَمِعَ. When you speak about everything you hear, there's a lot of suspicion there. And that is wrongdoing. So if you want to stay safe, stay in the middle. So because you know some of the suspicion is bad, try to avoid it altogether. Except when it is very beneficial. You know, and how would you know that suspicion is beneficial? Is when the Sharia allows you, first of all, to use suspicion. Also, when your intellect, so it's not your desires, it's not your emotions, it's not your ahassis and masha'ir, no, it's all about your intellect. You know you have to be suspicious in this. So we can use that. Otherwise, it is very, very bad tool. And as I said to you, many divorces take place because of this suspicion thing. Doubts. Doubts is a tool that a shaitan can use against you to destroy your relationships with your people. Inna ba'd al-dhanni ithm. For Allah Azza wa Jal to warn us against suspicion, he said it is ithm. Ithm, what is ithm? Means something you get sinned for. So it's not just a bad thing, it's actually there is a sin behind it. So imagine, it's not just morally you have to stay away from suspicion. No, even Islamically you have to stay away from suspicion from a friend. Why? Because suspicion destroys relationships. When you start having these doubts based on your emotions about your missus, about your wife, about your husband, about your children, about people around you. Even brothers sometimes don't trust each other, not because there is something calling you to have those thoughts. No, it's just because you think everyone is bad, and therefore you have to stay away from them. This is a satanic strategy to destroy our families and our societies in general. And that's why it is really bad. And that's why after Suspicion, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about another tool, very dangerous tool. It's called التجسس. وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا. Means do not spy on each other. Many divorces started, ikhwani, from going into your husband's phone, or going into your missus' phone, or your children's phones. Some brothers think they are protected, they will protect their children, but actually you are destroying your children. When every single minute, you give me your phone, give me your phone, give me your phone, and you start checking your children's phone every single minute, you're actually teaching them how to have this disease of doubts. Yes, there are ways, alhamdulillah, how to discipline your children. No doubt, we have that responsibility towards our children and towards our beloved ones. But the solution is not to act against the Quran, because you are putting all this disease into their heads from the very beginning. Maybe they're not even thinking about anything. But you can be vigilant. Definitely you need to be vigilant in a very smart way, so you don't offend your children while you're trying to protect them. Then when you see something clear, or you have genuine suspicion, then you can address that in a good way as well. In a good way as well. Just the way how you treat yourself sometimes, because brothers, sometimes we're very soft with ourselves. You know that there are a lot of things you're doing wrong. You know that. We all know this about ourselves. And we are still gentle with ourselves. But when it comes to our children, our spouses, our brothers, we're too harsh. That's kind of being double standard. Yes, if you're harsh on yourself as well, then at least we know that's your way of life, and then it's something you can correct. But to be harsh on others and you be soft towards yourself, I think there's something we have to correct in that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا. Don't spy. وَلَا يَغْتَبْ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are like a chain. They are linked to each other. Suspicion leads to spying. And spying leads to what? When you start finding things that you don't have the right even to know about. That's why Islam is haram. Even if you know that somebody is doing something wrong in their own home, it's haram to go and spy on them. It's not your business. Make dua for them. If it's something exposed, you can talk to them personally in nice ways. اذهبا إلى فرعون إنه طغى فقولا له قولا لينا. This is Fir'aun. And Allah is saying to Musa and Harun, go to Fir'aun and speak to him gently. Fir'aun, who said, أنا ربكم الأعلى. He said, I know more. Yet Allah is saying to Musa and Fir'aun and his brother Harun, make sure you speak to Fir'aun in a gentle way. Gentle way. With Fir'aun. So your children, your missus, your husband, your neighbors, your brothers in the masjid, they are not in the level of Fir'aun, for sure. So they deserve gentleness more than Fir'aun. وَلَا يَغْتَبْ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا. This is another disease. Very bad disease. Al-ghiba, backbiting. And I'll speak about it in the second part of the Jum'ah. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فيا فوز المستغفر. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. My dear brothers and sisters, al-ghiba, backbiting, is another crisis we have inside our homes and in society. And it's bringing a lot of conflicts, and as I said, a lot of divorces and unhealthy relationships come from. And when I say this, because many of us think that divorce is the only bad thing about or the bad consequence of conflicts. No. There's something, sometimes it's worse than divorce, which is having toxic relationship. And that's why, alhamdulillah, from Allah's rahmah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, He allowed divorce under some circumstances. Why? Because sometimes divorce has more rahmah and mercy than having a toxic relationship where the relationship is destroying the children and destroying you as well, mentally and physically. So we have to think about these two things together. Divorce as a bad thing, definitely a bad consequence, because it's just a disaster. Also, having a toxic relationship in the house, whether with your spouse, with your children, also is another disaster. So al-ghiba, ikhwani, backbiting is another major problem that brings a lot of these kind of toxic relationships and divorces. When there is a small conflict, sometimes one of the spouses go and start backbiting his wife or his husband or her husband to others. This is haram. Al-ghiba itself is haram. Al-ghiba itself, backbiting is haram. In fact, it's a kabir, it's a major sin according to many scholars. Yes, there are some situations and circumstances where you are allowed to backbite. Like when a judge, for instance, you have a problem with somebody and you go to the court. Of course, you're going to tell your lawyer and the judge what happened with that person. That is allowed. Also, if somebody comes to you and says to you, brother, I want to establish a business with Zayd or Amr, with A or B. Can you advise me? You say, no, I don't advise you to do business with that brother because you can't trust him. Backbiting here is allowed. Why? If you are sadiq, if you are saying the truth, and out of care, you are giving. But the scholar said you can only give what is enough, the information that are enough the person to refrain from the harm and from the evil. You don't give everything. Now what happens in families, subhanAllah, when there's a conflict, all of your business is exposed to others, to family members, to friends. You can't do this, my sister. You can't do this. And you can't do this, my brother. Your wife's secrets, your husband's secrets of private life has to stay inside. Even your children. Some parents, subhanAllah, I don't know where our Muslim brothers and sisters get this idea from. It's just because you are a parent, you think that you own that child. You don't own anyone. You can't expose your children to your friends, just sitting down, embarrassing your children, speaking about your children to others, to your friends, and your son is there, or your daughter, or even if they are not there. This is considered to be haram, ghiba. You have no right. Our children, our spouses are not assets. They're not our assets. We don't own them. They have their own dignity we have to protect. In fact, as parents, we have this upon our shoulders to protect each other, to protect our children. So the idea of ghiba is very, very bad. And the way how Allah linked suspicion and doubts with spying and then backbiting is amazing, the way how these two are linked, because one leads to the other. So may Allah Azza wa Jalla, ikhwani, protect us. And as I said to you, because Khutbah Jum'ah became very short now, alhamdulillah, so we don't take so much of your time, also Asr is coming very soon. So I want every brother and sister to study Surah Al-Hujurat. Surah Al-Hujurat is called Surah Al-Akhlaq. Wallahi, you will change a lot of our behavior. And by the way, ikhwani, many people, when you have a debate with them or some kind of discussion, they say, look, this is how I am. And spouses say this as well. This is how I am. When you start saying this is how I am, you are fighting for your weaknesses. You will never change. we are able to change our behavior. Otherwise, Allah subhanahu will not say, stay away from this behavior and do such and such. When you start believing that your behavior controls you and you have no control of it, then trust me, brothers and sisters, you're going to die with your weaknesses. We have the ability to change our behavior. We have to. And the biggest evidence to this is that we are responsible for our behavior. And Allah will hold us accountable for our behavior, which means we have control to change it. So I want everyone to go to Surah Al-Hujurat and see how, as I said to you, there are 16 commandments in Surah Al-Hujurat. The way how Surah is starting, how it's taking you gradually, a step by step, and you act upon that, not just in society, no. In the house, with your spouse, with your children. When Allah says, don't backbite, don't think that Allah is talking about outsiders. No, He's talking about your wife, your husband, your children, your parents, your aunts, every single human being. Because every human being has their own dignity we have to protect. And you all heard and you saw the news, the girl Sarah has been brutally killed by family members of food. I don't want to go into that because I don't have details, but according to what we read in news, it's just, how old is she? 11 or 9, 11, 12, it's just crazy. Allahu Akbar, what's happening in society. To cause death and torture to your own child, it's insane. So Ikhwan, Surah Al-Hujurat came to do this for us. Go through it, see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is changing our behavior, or commanding us to change our behavior. And may Allah Azza wa Jalla give us the strength to become better, inshallah ta'ala, every day, because that's what we need to do, not to be perfect, but to be better. Tomorrow I should be better than today. And I have to have in my schedule. And I have my plan that next week, inshallah, I should be better in the end. And this is how it works. And this is one of the reasons why the Quran came gradually within 23 years, because it was changing people's behavior. So Sahaba 23 years ago, when Quran just started, are much better than after 23 years, because 23 years of discipline and tarbiyah. May Allah Azza wa Jal give us the tawfiq and grant us khayr dunya wal akhirah. اللهم لك الحمد حتى ترضى ولك الحمد إذا رضيت ولك الحمد إذا رضيت لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك. اللهم صل على عبدك محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. اللهم آت نفوسنا تقواها وزكها فأنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها. اللهم كن لنا وليا ونصيرا. اللهم احفظنا بين أيدينا ومن خلفنا وعن أيماننا وعن شمالنا ومن فوقنا ونعوذ بك أن نغتال من تحتنا. اللهم كن لأهلنا في فلسطين. اللهم كن لهم وليا ونصيرا. اللهم كن لهم وليا ونصيرا وظهيرا. اللهم يا رب كن لهم واحفظهم واعيهم ووفقهم لخير الدنيا والآخرة يا رب العالمين. وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم تسليما وأقيم الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر.